Welcome to the CSMI radio broadcast, Today's Christian Music with James Burkhardt.
And welcome, everyone. It's November, and we've all gone through a time change in most of the United States. With us is Zak Awad, who is a very interesting young fellow with a great talent for putting words together with beat music, as we used to say. Welcome to the show, Zak. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How you doing?
Hey, doing terrific. So,
Praise God,
why don't
man.
you give just a little thumbnail sketch of your background, especially your late teen years and the changes that have been in your life over, say, the last 3 years.
Yeah, right. Well, the past 3 years are the past 3 years I've been saved. That's why I believe. I used to believe that really, if no matter what you do, that you're always saved. Once saved, always saved. And now I know that's not the case because I was heavily in drugs, and I was just a jerk. I was a real jerk, and to my family, and it was really like, it was more like I was depending on myself for overcoming situations, and that dependency failed on me, and I became weak, and to be accepted by society, really, I just turned to drugs, and that's when I met the love of my life, which is, rap, and that's what I do. I'm married to rap, and and it's really like I used to actually rap when I was high off of drugs and weed and whatever, all the above, and I turned to it, and it was really crazy how it impacted my life. Like, I started being able to jot my thoughts down, jot my feelings down, get that out of my head, and really it impacted my life so much, and God just used that platform to just skyrocket me to his throne. And it started out with cuss words and everything, but it transformed once I started getting into prayer groups and just surrounding myself with positive people.
Well, that's awesome. What special training have you had in terms of language and the use of language? Well,
I guess reading.
Hard Knocks is a school just as much as college is. So, tell us about how it came about.
I guess it's
about
all
that you're
self-taught, right?
Yeah, that's fine. But what did you do? How did you do it?
I guess what really helped me was I started reading a lot of books, and which gave me the vocabulary to put together some really interesting raps that, it's because your words are emotion, and that's a solid argument I give people against cussing in real life and in rap, and it's your words are emotion, and depending on your vocabulary and how you mean it and where it comes from, what comes from the heart impacts the heart, you know what I mean? From that scripture of Jesus saying, not what comes out of a man, but what not comes into a man, but what comes out of a man pollutes your heart, On the basis of that, I just think that I read a lot of good books, and so I guess it's my special training, right?
Well, what were some of the books that had the most impact on you?
Mostly business books. Mostly business books. Sad to say, it was I was really interested in becoming my own boss and just quote unquote escaping the system of like working 9 to 5 your whole life, and you know, I guess that's what I'm doing now, what I'm trying to do now, you know, with you know, recording other artists in Gene's studio and trying to get my album out and performing places for people. And you know, it's just really that my biggest fear, I tell you, fear is such a motivator. My biggest fear was not moving in life, like staying complacent. You know, so that's, I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
No, you're answering it fine.
Okay.
The question was, how did you do what you did? So you're explaining it quite clearly.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. When you were heavily into drugs, you were accepted by a certain group of people, but
yeah.
How did they make you feel? Was it a family or what?
Well, it was kind of like me hiding behind them and their social status in school and everything like that. And I really like, because I have never been one to socialize very much, you know. It's funny coming from a rapper, but I really I never really was a socializer. I never really was, and just to have those friends for me was defense, you know. It was like a defense, and out of my own insecurities, you know. So I guess that's what I saw in them is, yeah.
So was peer pressure a large part of that environment that you came from?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah, it was a lot of peer pressure to buy new drugs and, you know, try this and spot me $20 so I can get this. And, you know, I was trying to please my friend, and my main friend who supplied me the drugs really was my main, you know, go-to guy to try to, you know, get drugs. And it's really and when you're high, when you're with a group of friends and you're high, you know, you don't care about others' imperfections. You don't pay too much attention to that because you're high, you know. Stoned, you don't care, you know.
So when you were high and under the influence of drugs, did you start rapping then, or did that come a little bit later?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of like my my high season, as you would call it, I guess. I started rapping, and actually rapped a song. One of my first, you know, good songs, I'd say, you know, not professional. It was still kind of bad. You know, looking back, it's really bad, but it was okay. But I started rapping to my friend while I was high, and it's crazy because really, like, I love that guy. I still do, and you know, I can't hang out with him, you know, because he's not where God wants him to be, and you know. But I still pray for him, and he really impacted my life a lot in negative ways and in positive ways too. And I really just I did start rapping to him, and not to anybody else, but I still pray for that guy. It was my best friend, apart from being a total druggie with him. You know, it's a shame, really.
So when you changed your friends and you made a decision to hang out with other people and do other things, was it an easy transition for you?
Yeah, I'd say it was, because it's a complicated story with my friends and drugs. My best friend, it was really hard to, you know, not be able to hang out with him, but really he was scamming me. I found out he was not scamming like too bad, but he's what he was doing was he was trying to get me to. He realized that I was on the verge of not doing drugs and not hanging out with him, and he was trying to get my vape and borrow that, and I knew he'd probably steal it, which would be good for me. Vape is with nicotine, and it's a electric cigarette. I wasn't totally saved when I quit hanging out with all my friends, but him and a lot of other friends, I had talked to them within the past year and showed them my music. Thank God I was able to witness to them. But yeah, it was. I'd say it was the most difficult part was seeing that, because I kind of knew already that I'd stop hanging out with all my friends. It was kind of like an awareness I had. So I'd say that was the hardest part, is knowing that I'd have to stop doing drugs because my family was getting hurt, and I just really, I really just wanted to be a better person, and by God's grace, He installed that into me. And so, yeah, I mean, it just gradually happened. I didn't hang out with any friends anymore eventually.
So what are you doing now? I hear you're involved with a ministry to some street people or homeless people and making music.
Yep. All the above.
Great.
Do it all.
Well,
Your handheld.
When you're writing these rap songs, where do you find your largest creative force coming from?
Wow. That's a difficult question for some reason. My most creative force, I guess, I mean, if I were to want to escape this question, I'd just say God gives me the raps. But I see what you're trying to say is, man, I guess my life experience is what? Yeah.
Well, that's very common amongst songwriters and especially lyricists. Sometimes the best songs come out of your pain. I don't know if you've ever heard that or not, but
yeah, that's what it is. Yep. When I feel, that's true. When I feel very depressed, I'll start writing, and it'll become a song. And yeah, pain. That's true. Because
So how does your new music impact people when you're performing?
Well, I've had people come to me and say I've had people come over to me, and after I rap to them and perform, they come over and say, I love your rapping. I don't usually like rap, but I like your rapping. And it makes me feel so good because they also say that they understood some of what I said is relating to them. And I've had this person call me up one night at like 11 o'clock. I just got out of work, and he was like, man, I was listening to your music, and this guy's not saved totally. He's like, he's secular. He's on the verge. I'd say he's where I was at like 3 years ago. I'd say on the verge of being saved. But he called me up, and he was like, something just told me to call you. I was listening to your music, and man, it just feels good to listen to your music. I was like, yeah, man, I talked to him. I was like, how you doing? He was like, no, I'm not doing too well. He was telling me about how he had to live with his sister, and he was just going through some things. And I asked him, I was like, you want to pray? And he and I prayed, and I got him to pray and talk to God, and it was just a good experience. I really thanked him like a million times for calling, because I was like, wow, I really am humbled that you'd call me to, for advice and for prayer, and so thank God, man. It's good.
Well, Zach, I'm sure by now people are wondering, where do I find your music? Tell us about your YouTube channel and your website and any other social media you're involved in so that you can connect with people.
Well, I kind of fail in social media. I never really go on social media. But YouTube is a big thing for me. It's a platform it's easy to upload and something I can control. So it's if you go to youtube.com/mistakensound, or if you just type in Mistaken Sound, then you'll find me. And thank God there's people who are finding my raps, and it's just been such a blessing to release this latest album. And I apologize for the lisp. I have a little canker sore on my tongue right now. So.
Well, that's no fun. But other than YouTube, where can they buy your music or find it or order it online?
iTunes, Spotify. If you look up Mistaken Sound, I should be on Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, and Amazon. Really just anywhere, I guess. Anywhere you'd look for the mainstream platforms, I guess.
So how would you compare your rap to some of the secular general market rap artists out there? How do you stack up against the other rappers in your field?
Well, I mean, I'd say it just has a lot more words than they do, to be honest. Because, they say the same thing over and over again, and it's just, I guess my music pertains to anybody, really. If you got pain, you're going through pain or depression or that's what I talk about in my raps, and it's really not fun to compare myself to other rappers, but I'd say that mine has more information, definitely, because there's talks about drugs, weed, and sex and booze, and it's really really limited in what they talk about, but mine expands, real life, and I'd just say that, I guess.
So do you find yourself offering people hope or solutions rather than just reiterating problems in your songs?
I hope so.
Does that come out?
I sure hope so. I don't know. I guess so. Yeah, actually. Because there's people who tell me, they're like, man, it's so good to hear some non-secular good rap. They like my raps, and I can understand. It's not me saying it's good for like like my music is good enough or anything, but I've been doing it for about 3 years, and I've learned how to stay on beat the right way, and I've just mastered my craft over time, and they like it. Now it's got to the point where people are like jamming to it and buying my album. It's really nice. I've had this. I've had this lady who I went busking. You know what busking is street performances, and I've had this one lady. I was getting done busking in Michigan, and she comes up to me and she gives me, or she asked me, she's like, "Where's your album? I want to buy your album. How can I get your music?" I was like, "Oh, I have an album right here, and I have a couple albums." And she was like, "Okay, I'll be right back." And she came back, and she asked me how much my album was. I told her, she could have it for free because, I was just really trying to minister to people. And she hands me $20, and I'm like, no, that's too much. And she was like, no, you'll pay it down one day. And it's very nice to hear people just have put value to my music, and it's very fulfilling.
Well, what is the new project that you're working on? You just released one album and you started another. Is there a particular theme that you're picking up on, or?
Yeah, I'd say it's more like delving deeper. I'd say like it's got more singing to it, and it's expanded with my life expanding. And I used to rap about my depression and certain things I used to do in the past, and this new album really it does talk about depression and how it can affect your life, and but it also talks about the glory of God just overcoming it. And I have the praise song as my first song on the album, called "Shout It Out," and it's just going to be a great album that I'll put my heart and soul to. But I've mostly recorded just the worship song, that one worship song so far, because I've been busy recording other artists to make rent money. Like you got to live, and that is time consuming. So I've really I don't know.
So do you find yourself getting a little better as you work around the studio with other artists? Is it helping you record more sophisticated sounds, or are you just keeping everything nice and simple? You've kind of got a formula that you found that works, or? How is that studio experience helping you in your rap music? Zach, did we lose you?
Oh, I accidentally muted myself. Sorry.
Oh,
when did I stop talking? That's funny.
Yeah, well, the question was, how is your studio experience helping you produce better music?
Oh yeah, it helped me. I get to practice every day making music, I guess. So that would improve. If you do it enough, then it improve the skill. So I guess it is actually improving. Jane told me today that I'm getting better at it, and I just told him, God's helping me work on it, and that's what I pray for, is to not be complacent and say, oh, well, this is good enough, So I guess being my biggest critic is what motivates me in improving, and being able to record other artists is a very great help.
When you're writing lyrics, do you find yourself paying attention to where the accents come down on the syllables so that you really stay in time? And how hard is it to get those words to fit the rhythm of the rap?
You mean my raps?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel it out. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but it took a long time to be on beat. And raps, they usually start out with like me mumbling it, but then after I practice it so many times, then it'll become easy to even like predict the next how the next words will fit, like in freestyle. That's why I do sometimes, is I freestyle to teach myself to predict, how my next phrase will fit into the beat. And that's good, because then I can write songs better and faster than just one line at a time. I can just go in and on a beat and just write, and it's good.
Well, when you start, do you start with an authentic experience, an authentic emotion?
Always.
Where do you draw your inspiration from?
My, like you said before, my pain. My pain really does it for me. You know, I grew up with a brother and sister and a little brother, and I was really made fun of a lot by people who, you know, I wasn't very sociable, and people didn't like that about me. So I really got made fun of a lot, and you know, I was very housed and, you know, not too smart because I was housed a lot, and you know, somebody would tell a joke and I wouldn't get it because I wasn't too bright. But you know, it just comes from my emotion, and it's kind of hard to explain it. But yeah, I just write what I feel.
And what impact does scripture reading or prayer have on your outlook on life, so that you can write real songs with real problems but real solutions?
Yeah, I mean, it really always comes back to Christ being the solution, and without Christ, now I look back at it and I notice why things didn't work back then. Certain things and certain events didn't work because God didn't have that in my life, you know, or for a reason. And it just, you know, looking back on my past is it just impacts my future, looking back and rapping and saying these things out loud, and it's well-needed therapy, I'd say. It's well-needed, and I do need it. Otherwise, I would have been in a very dark place. So it really depends on, like, your point of view on it. If I'm rapping and, you know, I'm saying things I did in my past, it's really like retribution, telling people that and performing for people so that they may know that it's bad to do those kind of things and where it led. And that impacts my life because I see that it's really, really good motivational content for people to, you know, say, okay, well, I'm going through that, or I went through that, and it just impacts my life in the way I wouldn't expect it to, I guess.
Well, that sounds great, Zak. Zak Awad from Mistaken Sound. We thank you so much for being on today's Christian Music with us, and tune us in next time.
This has been the radio broadcast, Today's Christian Music with James Burkhardt. For more information about Christian songwriters and musicians international, please go to our website at www.csminetwork.com or email us at cwnnashville@gmail.com.